What is up, guys? Lone Hawk here today, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to talk about improving your aim in Overwatch and in every game in general. We're going to start with some PC tips and then move on to console. If you're a console player, check the description for when the console discussion actually starts. Alright, so these first few tips, like I said, will be PC only. For you PC players, the first few things you should do are all settings related. First, go into your mouse settings under your control panel and make sure Windows Enhanced Pointer Precision is turned off. All Enhanced Pointer Precision does is allow Windows to make extra calculations when moving your mouse, which adds mouse delay and actually changes where you're pointing. Next, make sure whatever game you're playing has frame smoothing and VSYNC both turned off. These just add an extra delay from when you actually move your mouse to when the game registers that you did that. Next, if you have a gaming mouse or a mouse that can change its DPI, make sure you find a consistent DPI that you're always going to use. Don't be changing it around a lot, keep it consistent. I recommend something between 400 and 1200 DPI. Personally, I use 800, and I'll go over my hardware and all of my specs a little bit later. Now let's move on to the non-settings related tips, the tips that will change depending on the person. My next tip actually is two tips combined. Part 1 is try to lower your sensitivity. Part 2 is stop aiming with your wrist. If you're aiming with your wrist, chances are your sensitivity in-game is extremely high. I see so many PC gamers who have tiny little mouse pads who barely even move their mouse because they're only using their wrist to aim. They can do a full 360 simply by moving their wrist. If you're one of these people, please stop. It is only hindering yourself. What you should do is invest in a larger mouse pad, lower your sensitivity, and aim from the elbow. You can move your whole arm, so why wouldn't you? Move your whole arm to aim and use your wrist for fine adjustments. Trust me, guys, this works better. If you don't do this already, it may take a month or even more to get used to, but in the end, you will be a better player if you're not aiming with your wrist. You should be aiming with your arm at the elbow and using your wrist for fine aim adjustments. Now let's go over some of my recommended hardware and settings for improving your aim. I use the RAZER GOLIATHUS Speed Mousepad, which is absolutely amazing. It's about 18 inches wide and over a foot tall, which to some players is absolutely massive. I agree, it's pretty big. I'm actually looking to get a bigger one, but this mouse pad, you really can't go wrong with it. It's only about 20 bucks, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 25, I'm not sure, but basically what this allows you to do is do exactly what I said. Aim at the elbow and utilize a much larger space than just a tiny circle mouse pad you'll buy at Walmart. Just make sure if you buy it, you buy the large edition because it comes in 4 sizes. I recommend large or extended because those are both the big ones. Another good mousepad, I don't actually use it, but I've heard great things about it, is the QCK Plus by SteelSeries. So if you don't like RAZER, go check that one out as well. As far as your mouse goes, I'm not going to go ahead and be a Nazi and say you need to use these specific mice if you want to be good. Use whatever mouse fits comfortably in your hand and is pretty light. Whatever you do, don't use a wireless mouse though. Wireless mice have batteries in them, which make them a lot heavier. I highly recommend only using wired mice because there will be less input lag and they will be much lighter. I personally use the RAZER DEATHADDER Chroma. There's actually an Overwatch edition out if you want to get that. It is extremely light, has 2 buttons on the side that are fully customizable. I almost never use them because I use my keyboard buttons, but it's a great mouse. I set it at 800 DPI and I use the 2 sensitivity option when I'm in Overwatch. Once you've taken into account all of the previous statements I just made, the only way to improve your aim is to practice. Keep playing the game. This isn't something that's going to happen overnight. It doesn't happen overnight for anyone. You'll probably actually never see a direct improvement from the day before. It's a slow process, like growing a tree. You don't notice every time a tree has grown. It just grows slowly over time, and that's the way your aim's going to be. So keep at it. Keep a positive attitude towards your aiming. Keep practicing, and you'll all get better. Now for improving your aim on consoles. On consoles, aiming is very different than on PC. For PC players, I recommended lowering your sensitivity as much as you can because higher precision is better. However, when you're using a controller, I actually recommend the opposite. If you're comfortable at a certain sensitivity, try raising it by 1. Just try it. And if you can get comfortable with it with a few days of playing with that sensitivity, use it. And then try raising it again. Basically, you want to play on the highest sensitivity that is comfortable for you when you're on a controller. I can't really explain the details as to why that's better, except for the fact that I just know if someone comes up behind you and your sensitivity is really low, it's going to take you a very long time to actually turn around and shoot back at them. So having a higher sensitivity is better in that regard. Another tip I have for you console players is try out these things called control freaks. I personally used them back when I played, competitive Call of Duty. We don't need to talk about that. It was a bad time. I was playing Call of Duty. But basically, all I know are these control freaks actually improve your aim. Basically, they lengthen the sticks on your controller. I personally only used one on the stick I was aiming with. My movement stick, I didn't use one. If you don't want to buy from Control Freak, I think a few other brands have actually made some that are knockoffs and they work the same way. Basically, if you can find a way to lengthen your sticks, I highly recommend it. It'll take a little bit to get used to, sometimes even like a month-ish. But if you can, I recommend it and it will help you. There are some other things you can do. I've heard of scuff controllers. I've heard of modded controllers. However, I think those are banned, so I don't recommend modded controllers. However, scuff controllers, SCUF, if you've never heard of them, they do all the stuff Control Freak does, and they make the controller all fancy and comfortable and hold in your hand, and it's really kind of a ripoff, but if you've got extra money to spend, check out scuff controllers. They might improve your aim. I'm also not sponsored by anybody in this video. These are honest thoughts from me. I don't get any money for saying any of this. Once you've taken all this into account, the only way to really improve your aim is to practice. And I know you don't want to hear that. Everybody wants a way to improve their aim overnight, but I promise you it can't happen. But what you can do is keep a positive mindset and always consciously think about the fact that you're trying to improve your aim. Just keeping that thought in the back of your head, the thought of improving your aim will actually make you a better player because your body will consciously, actively try to be better than it is right now. One other thing I'd like to note for console players before we head off here is always try to sit or lay down or just be in the same position whenever you're playing. If one day you're on your back looking at the TV and the other day you're on your chest leaning forward and the other day you're in a chair, your aim won't be consistent because your body is in different positions. Try to keep everything as consistent as possible and you will become better at aiming. Trust me. Hopefully this was helpful for you all. If it was, be sure to tell me down below. And if it wasn't, tell me what I can do to improve next time. Hopefully you all have a great 4th of July. You won't be getting a video until after that. And have a wonderful holiday weekend. I'll see you guys all later. Lone Hawk out.